design an ATM for a 6-year-old?
Design an alarm clock for blind people, or design a parking lot for the future. Now, these kind of questions typically come for product rounds, whether you're a product manager, a technical product manager, growth PM, PMM, it doesn't matter. Most product rounds will always have a product sense round, and there's a approach to solve these kind of questions. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a real world interview scenario where I am going to be the one that's getting the interview and Kshitija is going to be taking my interview. Kshitija, do you want to walk us through the structure of the call?
Absolutely. So first we'll start with the problem statement. As Yuri walks us through that, we will also discuss a few pointers and I'll be asking a few questions. And in the end, we'll summarize with the frameworks and the structure that was used to solve for the problem statement. Okay, so the problem statement is that you have to design an ATM for a 6-year-old.
Interesting. So the top two questions I definitely want to answer before I kind of go ahead is the fundamental need for a 6-year-old. And I also want to really flesh out who the 6-year-old is. So am I open to take assumptions around the geography, the cities, where the 6-year-old is, etc.?
Absolutely. You
Perfect.
can do that.
All right. So what I want to do is I just want to understand who this user is. So I'm assuming India, as I'm aware of this market a lot more, a 6-year-old is going to be in their first grade, right? So it's first time in school. They are in tier 1 city. And most likely they are poor at arithmetics, or at least complex arithmetics, right? I don't think they can do multiplication, etc. Probably can do very simple, plus minus, 5 plus 5, etc. And this is what I'm understanding from the first user, but I want to double dive on why would a 6-year-old really need an ATM, right? Mm-hmm. Let me just list down some use cases maybe of money, because the end job of an ATM is to give me money. So when I think about use cases for the 6-year-old, right? So let me just put this down. So 6-year-old. I'm gonna get use cases. I'm thinking why do I need money? I can probably buy a laptop, a phone, clothes, food. But for a 6-year-old, they would typically either need to buy snacks, maybe some kind of toys or stationery. And of these use cases, toys, their parents are going to buy them. I don't think 6-year-olds are going outside and buying toys. Stationery also is bought beforehand. Snacks also are served to them, they're always supervised essentially, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to add this to the user understanding of mine, right? Is they are always supervised. So the ATM machine will probably be used when they're not supervised. The only time the 6-year-old is not supervised is in schools, because even in parks, usually they are typically most of the times they're at least having an elder brother or someone, a guardian, that's always looking at them. So then for them, use case of the money, I'm going to prioritize school, because schools is the only time they are unsupervised, in the sense that they are, they're in school basically, right? And snacks is the only thing. The other thing that I've just also realized is that in terms of just users, right? 6-year-old might be one user, but obviously the parent is the second user. And if school is the place that I'm thinking of going ahead with, then I'm also going to prioritize and add another user to this ecosystem, which is the school itself. and the use case that I'm sticking to, by the way. So I am definitely deprioritizing toys and stationery as it's not like a big use case. Another use case could be emergency. Just missed that actually. Emergencies. While this might be one, but I feel like it's a edge case kind of a thing, and not sure if like building a product of an ATM might make sense for it.
What sort of emergency?
Like emergencies meaning, they lost or they need to come back home, their rickshaws not come or anything of smaller emergencies. But I feel like there are massive edge cases and the school is probably equipped to handle those. But just going to take a quick pause. I think what I'm going to do now is I just want to double down on all the users that I think that are going to be part of the ecosystem. So number one thing, this machine that we are building is for, and I'm going to like just keep changing the question. So designing an ATM machine for 6-year-olds in school so that they can eat snacks is what I am going to narrow down on, and I'm going to just try to understand all the users, their use cases, their problem statements, basically prioritize, and only then think of, even considering if this is actually a use case. Does that sound fine for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Awesome. So just a 6-year-old, right? I think we spoke about the 6-year-old's use cases. Who the 6-year-old is, but I haven't and inside snacks, I just want to now prioritize for inside for food, basically. Children don't like healthy food. They like junk food. They like fast food, junk food. They like food that has toys. They like food that comes with some toys. Like I remember those Tazos that we used to get from those chips packet. I remember personally buying the chips packet just for the Tazos, and I had collected one. Just off topic, my teacher confiscated all of my Tazos. Heartbreak moment. But they like food that comes with toys as well. And they like junk food. They like burgers, pizzas, and don't like healthy food per se. But I want to go to the parent because they're also a very important user in this ecosystem. For parents, I want to list down the use cases that are relevant to this, right? Which is, they're obviously if they're in tier 1, they're most probably both working, they're in a nuclear family, not joint families, so they don't have people to cook food or etc. So they're busy parents, right? So I don't think they might have time to cook meals all the time, so they might miss out giving those meals. And for a parent, I think it's very important that my child has healthy food, warm food, fresh food. So healthy food, warm food, and fresh food.
Okay, here, why would the parents not give money to the kid directly? And why would they need an ATM essentially?
That's a good question. Let me just think about this. So I think maybe the biggest problem I think is so maybe I can structure this. Who are they? Their problems, right? With respect to snack, or let's say lunch money. Let's specify this, right? Lunch money for kids, right? Just gonna structure this. So they're busy parents, tier 1, both working. Their problems is, I think their main problem is children buying unhealthy food. And coming back to your question, I mean, the reason why my parents or like our parents probably never gave us like, 20, 50, 100 rupee notes when we were 6-year-olds, maybe like later. I don't think it's like because they couldn't afford it. It's also like, I feel like we lose a lot of money. Like also we can get bullied, but like we can end up losing it. And if we lose the money, then there's no lunch and then I'm gonna cry. And then I don't think any parent wants that. So they I think avoid giving cash as much as possible. I remember in my school as well, so many times where like children have lost money and they're like crying because they can't now buy food. So I think one of the biggest problems I would like definitely write down is losing money, right? And yeah, I think losing money. Does that sound fine to you? Like losing money as a use case or a problem statement?
Yeah, but I'm also trying to understand, like, this is one part, but how, as a parent, how would you control the amount of money that the child is withdrawing? And if someone is asking him to withdraw, so if they're sharing the money over there.
Right. So they want like visibility to, the child's, they don't have, basically because they're children buying unhealthy food, so they lack visibility essentially to the food that the child will eat, right? Yeah, I think that makes sense. There are problems. What they want is a solution where they can, they want their child to eat healthy food for sure. They want to track what they are eating, if they're eating on time or not, right? I think these are like the primary two things that they're definitely looking at.
Do you think they also want to control the amount of money that the kid can withdraw at a moment?
Probably. I think like keeping like limits, etc. Of spend for the child will probably be important as well. Schools and canteens, I think I'll club them together. Their primarily, I think, goal is increasing revenue for sure, because for them this should be like a massive benefit. And the only way they are going to think about having anything of a product like this is if they can offer this to the parent for like some extra money, right? As a value-added service, basically. So increasing revenue is what I'm saying. And so let's say number of orders from canteen should increase post the product, basically. Is what I'm thinking from their need or their use case. Some other problem, if I have to list down the problems of the schools and canteens, I think I would just say that it's similar, right? Whatever concerns that parents have around unhealthy food, that's one of the deterrent that schools are not able to like project that, okay, they have healthy food, they can't give that visibility to the parent. So it's all lying to the parent. So in my mind, this is like the end user, but this is the primary user I want to optimize. I also want to build for.
What according to you is the frequency of the ATM usage by a kid in school? In a month, say?
Okay. You said frequency of usage. I would assume this frequency of this ATM machine. Let's say if whatever this machine comes out to be, the way I'm thinking of it is there are going to be children who take the entire meal subscription from canteens, but that's a very small audience. Typically 10% of parents like go and subscribe in canteen ki ab canteen ka hi khao, for example, right? Now for most of the parents it's like, oh, I didn't get time today, oh, I got really tired, whatever those reasons are, and instead of giving cash they'll probably give them basically just access to this ATM machine that they can directly purchase from. Now, in terms of frequency, I would assume at least 60% of parents doing this, and let's say 10% of parents have a subscription for their child, and let's assume that like 30% of parents are very regular with meals, for example, right? Because they have maids, because they are like whatever, like they're just good parents, I guess. But the point is that I would say that these are not like the primary users. These parents, and if you look at 60% parents, if let's say a school has, I don't know, like 2,000 children, you're looking at, at least 60% of this, which is basically 1,200 people. So 1,200 children, and this kind of a use case probably happens for a parent at least once or twice a month, at least, at minimum, right? So we're still looking at roughly at least, even if I take 1/4 as, let's say if there are 20 days in a day, and if a parent requires it for at least 2 to 3 days, or let's say 4 days, 4 times in a month, for example, that's 10% of the days that this is happening. So for 10% of the days, for 60% of children, that would end up this to be 10% of days. I'm assuming like working days to be 20 days. So then that basically means 2,400 meals that are spread out almost like daily, to be honest with you, because it depends on each parent on how they're kind of splitting this up. But yeah, that's how I'm thinking of the math to be, right? Cool, awesome. Now, for schools, this increasing revenue number of this, what I want to do now is just take 10-15 seconds to really prioritize what is the use case that I want to really solve for. And once I prioritize that from the users, then I want to basically present my approach of solving this solution. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Just let me. Cool. So I have this whimsical. So these are the use cases or problem statements that I have, I think, just trimmed down from what we just spoke for parents, for children, and for schools and canteens. Right. Primarily, we're looking at losing money for the child, which ends up hurting the school canteen itself, because that's the money that they don't really make or increase, right? Secondly, like what I want to really solve for is the losing money part should be completely eradicated from this product. And they also should be able to, like, the child, if I want the child to use this machine, and if like the parent is showing like spinach only, the child is not going to use this machine to like buy any kind of food. So I need to think about solutions in that manner. And for schools, the end output is definitely going to be like increasing revenue here. But yeah, this is how I am prioritizing the problems and use cases. I think what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to look at like the approach to my solution right now. But do these problems and use cases seem fine to you?
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. All right. So the way I'm looking at my solution right now is twofold. One is on the product in terms of like the look and feel, right? The other things I want it to have is like just some functionalities. And then I'm going to just go through like a user flow basically for us, like just step by step on how the product will look like. And at the end, we'll just look at metrics to track. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think in terms of look and feel, obviously the end user is the child, so it has to be, cognizant of that. So shorter. So let's say about 4 feet at max is the max height of that ATM, right? 4 feet ATM. I'm also assuming, by the way, there are very little constraints here in terms of the product building capabilities. So a 4 feet ATM that is also adjustable in height. Some children are quite short, some children are slightly taller. So some buffer of adjustments in, let's say, about a half a feet of feet that the ATM machine can keep adjusting into. Adjustable height for the child, right? This is obviously like, we're gonna like make it more playful How McDonald's did with their characters, so playful, maybe it's a cartoon theme, right? The other thing is children, like ATMs are like have pretty hard edges. So, want to make them soft, maybe like a rubber coating to them. Some kind of a rubber or soft coating would definitely be needed so that children don't get hurt, basically. Apart from that, in terms of look and feel, I don't think there's like super critical, but I will just look back on the problems and use cases and just see if I'm solving for them. Yeah, I think look and feel wise, it's perfectly fine from the use cases that you want to solve for. Now, in the functionalities, definitely this is going to be built from both the parent and the child use case, but the parent definitely number one. So in terms of parents' problems, right? It was losing money, eating healthy food, tracking, etc. So in terms of functionalities, we're looking at three key things. I think number one is losing the money, which is basically the transaction part, right? So transaction, most children might miss out or forget about the PIN code or whatever. And children are usually using their parents' phone for like fingerprint as well. So transaction authorization, I'm looking at biometric here, right? A thumbprint scan to begin with should be fairly straightforward. Then the other thing is the ability to add money from their own account. It can also be like a joint account, right? It can be a joint account with a banking partner. I don't want a two-step authorization, meaning like, an OTP authorization for the parent to come in. It should just be biometric up to a certain limit. So transactions up to a certain limit set by the parent should go through directly. These are going to be pretty small transactions like 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees. Parent can set like 200 rupees ke upar needs an OTP verification, because these parents are busy, right? If we ask them for OTP during meetings, it's going to be like a big problem. So definitely that's not going to be right. An app for them to track their child's meals, what kind of nutrition they're having. It can give them analysis around nutritional value, the trends that the child's doing, etc., etc. Right. The main thing here, I think, is the transaction, which is biometric, which will ensure that the money is not lost. But this is where I want to talk about the user flow. I first was thinking about like vouchers or ticketing systems, but then it's just another thing that the child can lose. Sure, the distance is now just not from home to school, but from point A to point B, it's still not solving the real problem. So I think this machines, if it's the only core use case for it to basically give food instructions, it can become like a food ordering machine, like the ones that we have in McDonald's or in Starbucks, right? Self-serve ones. This machine is probably gonna be interacting in a very similar way, where the child can select the meal and the payment gets done automatically, and they can collect the meal directly from the canteen itself, right? So user flow can be child comes to the machine. Step 2 can be authorization. There's also like a point of bullying. So if needed, we can also add a camera during the authorization just to ensure that there's no bullying happening when the money authorization is being placed. To ensure that the healthy food part is done, what we can do is we can package these healthy meals in their favorite superhero characters, etc. That is gamification for children, right? They don't really care about points or streaks or anything of that sort. They want to get those toys, so you can incentivize. Let's say you have like palak ki bhaji, and you get like a smaller toy or a cooler toy. So the cooler toys are associated with the healthier foods. That's how we can incentivize them. but the flow remains as authorization is done. Order gets placed at the canteen, right? And then the user basically, which is the child here, child collects the meal. This is like the overall thing. I can also deep dive and like flesh out each flow. For example, the child comes to the machine, the first interaction, second interaction, authorization, how many steps should be there, order gets placed to the canteen, how should the ticketing system of the canteen on the admin side be, how should the school be able to also track what's happening across classrooms so that they can upsell it to their set of parents. Because at the end of the day, for them, revenue is important, those insights are important, right? I can definitely do that. But at a macro level view, at least this flow is fine. Would you like me to double deep down, or this is fine?
Have you thought about maybe if the machine is not working, is there any customer support planned, and how would that work?
Got it. Interesting. All right. So I think in like so let's say that this is the happy flow, right? In an unhappy flow, let's say child comes to the machine, authorization does not work due to hands are wet, right? Children's hands are wet, they're sticky, or for whatever reason. I think this is like one, I just list down all the unhappy maybe points that can happen. Authorization is done, but canteen does not receive the order. Another unhappy use case can be, let's say the machine gets like completely broken down, right? You know, it's just like not working. There's a big bug. It just crashes. Machine crashes. And the other one that I can think of is, I think these are like the most ones that I can think of from an unhappy flow point of view. At least that will happen a lot. If I have to prioritize, I would probably prioritize the first two, because in this case, it's probably like a red scenario. Here we would like just get alerts to the canteen as well as the school, right? And a pool, like a smaller pool of money that can be kept for a singular day in the canteen that can then be redeemed later can be thought of, right? So let's say there is a smaller pool of 100 rupees, up to 100 rupees the children can buy. Next time when the machine gets updated, then the order will be like, so they can manually, the admin will have the ability to manually place the order for the child as well, right? And then a manual order basically happens, right? Happens and money is debited later. Canteen does not receive the order and authorization does not work due to wet hands. I think over here, if this becomes like a really common use case, what we can do is we can communicate, we can detect. Nowadays screens can detect wet hands, or like, the screen is too wet. We can provide tissues and prompts for the child to kind of clean their hands and try again. That's one. So prompts plus tissues near the machine. That's one option. The second option can be, if this is a very highly recurring use case, and we can go with a slightly more expensive, but definitely a more foolproof, which is like the Face ID scan, right? So we can definitely go with a Face ID scan, which will completely eradicate this kind of a problem statement, right? And canteen does not receive the order. In this case, again, what we can do is a child can go and order directly, and the canteen can place the manual order. Right? Although this solution probably will be needing to thought well, because that might create a lot of operational hassle for the canteen itself. I'll definitely need to double think on this. But for the current version and the use case, if there are anything that is being prioritized, I want to first launch, understand what are the problems that are coming, and then prioritize. But I think these are the unhappy use cases that can come about.
Sure.
All right. And next, I just would like to go through the go-to-market strategy for this product and the success metrics. Would you like me to double dive and completely go in depth on the GTM with the positioning, pricing, etc.?
GTM is fine for now. I think we can understand more about the metrics to track.
Got it. So metrics to track, I think number one is obviously from top down, I'll think, right? So one is on the product usage. I want to understand how the product is used by classrooms, by the kind of areas, the kind of meals that people are buying, etc. And then the other theme is primarily on the funnel, meaning how many children start the meal ordering and actually complete the process, etc. So funnel ordering process, right? The other thing is on the parents app, right? So how many parents are using the tracking mechanisms? What are their behaviors there? Is the joint account being filled or topped up properly? Are there some lapses there? So that's my approach on why I would want to track these kind of themes. In product usage, it's everything from the categories of food bought, right? The day, what days are the food orders are more, what days they are lesser. So Monday versus Tuesday, Friday, Thursday, like that. So understanding daily purchase trends, what food combos are working best, what toys or incentives drive healthy food, basically, because that's one of the things that you want to keep optimizing for. I think if you keep optimizing for a healthy food adoption, parents are going to want to use this product even more, right? And the food ordering process is pretty straightforward. From step one to the final step, I would like to just understand the entire funnel, whether it's authorization failures, whether it is screen issues, just overall funnel from start order to the canteen getting placed. I'll also try to understand the time it takes for this funnel to be completed, right? Because if it's taking 10-15 minutes, then it's quite redundant. We should really look at shortening this time. And Parents app is all again about their usage, what are they tracking? I mean, inside their usage, they're probably tracking mostly what their child is eating, reports around money, about their wallet usage, right? Primarily. And just themes around those is what I would want to track in the initial phase. On the quantitative side, qualitative, obviously, it's if the product is actually adding value to the end customer, which is all student, parent, child. And that will really help us understand how we can make the product better and do a much larger GTM. But for the first version, I think this should be fine.
Okay. Considering one of our users is also schools, any metrics to track for them?
Yes, I think that's a great point. I think for them, it's going to be on the school or the canteen, right? I think for the school and canteens, all about revenue. So giving them insights. So one is I want to understand through research, whether it's manual or not, the percentage of orders coming via the ATM versus directly. This percentage is important because over time, we definitely want to keep increasing this wallet share of ours, right? And ensure that all orders come via our product only. right? The other things are that I would obviously want to track on the school side is basically the number of failed orders or order misses, meaning, a wrong order getting placed. That we can keep improving the product. This is primarily for improving, this is primarily for growth. The other things is like how many times is the product used for tracking, whether it's tracking like who's buying what, or like are they getting repeat purchase behavior, are they getting new users, etc. But that's general tracking that I would like to do. But in the first version, definitely I think it's trying to solve for the healthy food in the ATM a lot more than like just going very crazy on all the other metrics if I have to prioritize.
Got it. That's it for now. I think that's super helpful.
Awesome. I just want to summarize the entire approach, right? I think we started off with like designing an ATM for 6-year-olds, and the first thing I wanted, like we spoke about why a 6-year-old would even need an ATM, right? And we looked at all the users in this ecosystem, right? So one is a 6-year-old. We spoke about who they are. We tried to detail down their use cases with money. They're not like adults. Then we spoke about parents, the second user, and the third user is school and canteens, right? Then we looked at, hey, what are the top use cases or problems for these users, right? So for parents, it was children buying unhealthy food, losing the money. For child, they obviously lose the money and they want fancy, cool looking food, right? And they're unable to do complex math, so they can't really do transactions and such. And for canteens and schools, it's all about growing revenue, right? Now in the solution was broken down into like primarily 3 parts. One is the look and feel. So we spoke about for the user, what's the right look, feel, so height adjustments, it being safe for them, no hard corners, stuff like that. In terms of functionalities, we spoke about what is the thing that will solve for number 1, losing money, right? Which is mostly a biometric transaction, which will not have any form of vouchers, currency, anything of that sort. And the money part should be auto-debited, so there's no OTP because parents are busy here, right? And the ability for the product to track, so that the parents can track what healthy food or whatever food that the child is eating, right? We spoke about the happy flow on what will happen if there's a happy flow, and we also spoke about some unhappy flow use cases, right? And at the end, we wanted to talk about metrics to track, whether it's product usage, the funnel ordering process, the parent app, or the school and canteen, right? We didn't talk about GTM, but I think overall, from a product sense round, this is the way I would want to approach it, right? So whenever you get like these broad problem statements, right, especially product sense rounds, they are primarily given to understand how much depth do you have about understanding the user, understanding if there are multiple users in that ecosystem, fleshing out their problems and use cases, prioritizing them, crafting a solution that is solving for that problem, GTM, and then success metrics. I hope you folks found this video insightful. Product sense rounds are not easy, but with practice, and I mean you need to practice at least 10 times, 15 times with your friends, colleagues, doesn't matter, you will be able to build the right muscle